Hello. Many useful features have come down from racing. The ride-by-wire throttle, the quick shifter, well, even basic stuff like the two-stroke expansion chamber. It's win on Sunday, sell on Monday. Recently, though, winglets have begun to appear on street bikes, and that trend is worse than useless. As one with some education in aerodynamics, I'm wrestling with calling this a strake, which it is. But winglet is the common misnomer, so let's content ourselves with at least getting its function right. This bulbous posterior forces air to move faster under the wing. Bernoulli says we're stretching that fluid out, making it lower pressure to suck the whole front end down, which is no small thing. I mean, it is a small thing. This strake produces 40 pounds of downforce at 200 miles an hour, but the effect is no small thing. You have to picture a massive amount of air force trying to flip this whole bike backwards. You have to picture the massive drive force similarly wanting to pivot the bike around its rear axle. And anti-wheelie modes, they can momentarily interrupt that, but they do nothing to actively work against it. Only this wing pushes the front end down, pushes more stability into the front tire on a straightaway at top speed. It pushes against the wheelie when you're accelerating onto that straight, and it pushes more pressure into the tire so you can brake harder coming off of it. All of this works tremendously in a straight line. But unlike a Formula Netflix car, this has to behave 68 degrees leaned over. Now, all of our downforce is wanting to throw the tire outwards, making me run wide or otherwise crash. I didn't think of that at first. Maybe you didn't either, but MotoGP's aerospace engineers definitely did, and they came up with two solutions. The first you see is to angle the wingtips downward. So when you turn, the outboard one is mostly pushing towards Earth. Of course, that means the inboard one is now more sideways than ever, but MotoGP riders aren't human. They're chimps. So they contort their bodies and hang down here to block the extraction of this inboard wing so it stalls. The resultant force we're left with from the outboard one is mostly okay. That's one solution. And the other solution is here. At 68 degrees, this fairing is 2 inches above the ground, and that makes it one big diffuser. Bernoulli's principle still applies. If we're squeezing air through this narrow gap, it's going faster, it's lower pressure, and that sucks the whole bike towards the ground, and ground effects are always perpendicular to the ground. So this force puts pressure on our tires to create more cornering grip without any of the nasty lateral side effects of the winglet. It's fascinating how these race machines can work when we're racing. But now let's step outside into the real world because, well, winglets, they're getting popular on real world bikes, and that is worse than useless. Unfortunately, Squarespace is not useless in the real world and can help us explain. Let's call our website Meaningless Motorcycle Mustaches. I want an intro section, a services section, and a appointments section. So your spouse can book me to come to your house and say, no, don't buy that. Okay, now watch. Fluid engine lets me edit this website in real time, in the real world view. I can drag this up here. Let's say I want to trade that for the S1000. We'll call it let's layer that above that and call it a basic service for me to talk you out of that wing. We'll put the CBR 1000 here, $149 to be talked out of that. Even something like the Street Fighter. What a ridiculous place for a wing. We'll call it $199 if you want me to bother talking you out of a bloody biplane. Okay, don't need this. We'll move that over and there's a website done. Then I build that to book appointments, to take secure payments, to send automated reminders. I did all that without having to learn the HTML dialect of robot speak. And click the link below and you can play with Fluid Engine right now. Use the promo code FORTNINE for 10% off when you're ready to host your first domain. Now, as for my anti-winglet consultancy business, I don't really think it's gonna work out. So let's just do it live. Street bikes, you may notice, do not have side diffusers because consumers, they like to see the engine, because mechanics like to see their problems, but mostly because none of us can hit the 68 degrees required to start generating ground effects out here. Remember though, the wing and the diffuser, well, they have to work together. Otherwise, there's nothing to counteract the strake wanting to push that front tire and tuck it into turn, which is actually a really common crash for slow guys trying to ride fast. And we're adding that risk for what? Like a little bit of front end stability at top speed? I like this Cordova Street diversion. I rarely hit it at 350 kilometers an hour. And I don't want to push down wheelies just to arrive at that traffic light 3/1000ths of a second sooner, because I like wheelies. Mostly though, I don't want the occasional extra braking force that the wing provides. See, when these first became popular in MotoGP about 2017, riders had this problem of bonking into each other. What was happening was, because the bike's braking performance was significantly improved by the aero, when a rider passes you and you're in the dirty air, suddenly that advantage is gone, and you crash into the back of the guy who's out braking you. The MotoGP teams generally didn't mind because dirty air makes racing harder for the guy behind you, and fuck that guy. But riders, they had to develop a gentleman's agreement not to immediately cut someone's line going into a corner off the straight, lest the crash. So now, in the real world, how much do you care about making a little bit of dirty air for the elementary school teacher in the Toyota Prius about 100 yards behind you? Probably not very much. And how much do you care about suddenly unweighting the tire and losing braking performance when an ungentlemanly truckload of dirty air pulls in front of you? Probably a bit more. Now, I don't want to paint this dark, destroy all winglets picture, because we're talking about very marginal things here. Is this sort of side effect force of a strake going to be the piece of straw that breaks your front away and causes a crash? I doubt it. Is the downward force going to cause you to overestimate your dirty air braking distance such that you run the 1.25 meters further between life and death? I doubt that even more. But I'm absolutely certain that you will never notice any of the benefits on public roads. So yes, winglets are theoretically dangerous in a kind of funny way, but mostly useless, like the Toronto Maple Leafs. I say keep them for the super fans, because your favorite superbike rider, he can use the aero, but he can only mount a wing if the manufacturer homologates one for street use. It's sell to a sucker on Friday, so you can win on Sunday.